All right, welcome everybody. We're going to be working on the chapter 7 assignments tonight, which is unit 6. And this focuses on subqueries, and these are the basic queries that we're going to operate here. We are going to be using the My Guitar Shop database for this. So for those of you in my class, this is one that we've used before. And you can see here in MySQL Workbench, I do already have it loaded up here. What is pretty typical though, is because I was working on a different database last, right? I was using the classic models database before. I am going to start the whole process here by just doing a very simple use statement. So I'm just going to say use my guitar shop with a semicolon at the end. Yes, I'll zoom in. And then I'm going to go ahead and execute that query. There we go. And I got the little green check mark. So that means I'm okay. That means we are now attached to that database, and all subsequent commands will attach to that database. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to add basically the instructions from the queries right inside the code file. And I'm just looking to make sure I have it correct. So, right, so just a quick refresher. What are different ways that I can include comments in my SQL code? You guys remember this? Yeah, Chris is giving me the hash mark symbol.
Yeah, hashtags. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like less effort to go like this than it is to actually unmute and say it. Yeah, so I'll use the hashtag. Let's use that one as an example. And is that indeed a comment? Yeah, it looks like a comment, right? Doesn't look like executing code. All right, so the command is create a query displaying the category name of only those items that can be found in the products table. Okay, so now do we have to look at the tables? I think we have to look at the tables a little bit. So I think this is always a healthy thing to do. Of course, if you work a database all the time, you know like what's in your tables, but it doesn't hurt to double check, right? And so if I look at the products table, I have product ID, category ID, product code, product name, description, list price, discount percent, and date added. All right. Okay, so the other aspect of this is if I'm looking, right, to create a query displaying the category name of only those items that can be found in the products table. So is there a category listing here? Well, no, but there is a category ID. You guys see that? I'm trying to highlight it. But that just gives me a value. So this tells me right away I'm dealing with a second table, right? And basically I'm dealing with the category table. So let's take a look at that one. What's in there? Well, it's just the ID and the name of the category. And if it's a guitar shop, it'll be something like, I don't know, guitars or basses or strings or, whatever the product categories are. So we are ultimately looking to display what? So this is kind of how you think about a outer query, subquery kind of setup. Create a query displaying the category name. So that's really the outer query. Are you guys feeling that? Maybe not. And that's okay if you're not. So I'm just going to tell you, right? All right. So I might start by saying select category underscore name from the categories table. Okay, so we're looking for a category name and it's coming from the categories table. Why? Because that's where the category names are located. They're not located in the products table. All right. But now we have some other terminology in here, and this is like where like your critical thinking skill comes in, right? Where you extrapolate like instructions you're given to coding constructs. So we're saying create a query displaying the category name of only those items that can be found in the products table. So for example, if I have stuff in the products table that aren't categorized, they're not going to come up. That's really what I'm looking for. So how do I make sure that I'm only getting something? You guys remember that keyword? Yeah, maybe not. All right, so I'm going to do a little refresher here. Somebody's putting in exists. That's not correct. We're looking for distinct, right? And I just erased the category name. So that was bad on my part. I want to say distinct. Okay, did it again. Okay, sorry, but I find that unuser friendly. All right, select a distinct category name from the categories table. And now we're going to put together our condition, right? So if I'm going to pull from the products table and get category information to see if a category is even applied, I have to get the category ID. Okay, so how do I know that? Because I'm looking at the products table and the only category thing in here is the category ID, right? So we're the category ID in my subqueries. This is going to be my subquery area. And then, well, we're not told to order by, but I think I might ultimately do that. So now I got to figure out what goes inside here to pull the right information. So once again, I'm going to start writing a new query statement. Now you can do this a couple of different ways. So some people will do it like this. They'll split their parentheses, they'll indent, and you saw this in kind of some of our examples. You can say, select the category ID from, and really, you know, if you want to follow like what I think is more easy to read format, you might do it like this, from the products table. All right. Will this work? Here's question number one. Hide my solutions here. All right, can we run it and find out? Yeah, let's do that, right? So this is the beauty of this also, right? Is we can run this and see what the results are and then see if the results are basically correct. And do you think that this is what we're looking for? Let me just ask that question. It says create a query displaying the category name of only those items that can be found in the products table. So it says basses, drums, and guitars. All right, so now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be really weird, but I'm going to check the products table for the kind of stuff that's in it, right? And what are the category IDs here? Well, we got ones, twos, and threes. If I look at the categories itself, I have one, twos, and threes. There's also a four. You guys picking up on that? But in our result here, we're just pulling in basses, drums, and guitars. So if I go and look at the products table again, are there any things that have a category ID of 4? No. All right. Can we do a little bit of an experiment? Because I forced this to use the distinct keyword here. Can I fly without that? Can I do this and get the same result? Okay, well, if you're not sure, the answer is just run the query again. Let's see, right? No harm done. Okay, I'm getting the same result. So does the distinct keyword matter in this situation? I'm going to argue it does not. All right, we're creating a query displaying the category name of only those items that can be found in the products table. And by looking at the products table, we only have 1, 2s, and 3s, no 4s. It's not asking me to display the product name. It's asking me to display the category name only of those items that can be found in the products table. Okay, so this works, meaning I have a keyboard category, but I have no keyboard products. Maybe at one time I did, but right now I don't. All right, so I'd say that this is the answer for number 1. Everybody okay? Got it to work okay? Smile, right? Silence is golden. Certainly doesn't hurt any, right? All right, let's move on to the second one, folks. All right, so the second one I have is this one. Here's another way to do a comment in MySQL also. Double dashes works also. So just keep that in mind. This one says, and I got to make sure, oh yeah, we're going off the edge of the screen here. So let's do that. Create a query displaying the product name and list price for the products where the list price is greater than the average product list price. Display in descending order. Okay. A lot more directives here. You guys are picking up on that. Also, there's some clues, right? So we're kind of given the condition. All we have to do is kind of verbalize that. But once again, let's take a look at what they're asking for. Displaying the product name and list price for the products where the list price is greater than the average product. Okay, I think this one sounds more straight ahead to me, and I don't know if you guys feel like it is more straight ahead, but I do think that it is slightly more straight ahead. All right, so let's start with what it's asking us to select. So I'm going to select, once again, we're looking for products. We're looking for the product name. I see product name. List price, I see list price. So let's select product name, comma, and the list price. Where are we grabbing this from? From the products table. Okay, pretty straight ahead. Now comes our condition. Where? And what are we being asked to do? The list price is greater. Well, I mean, they couldn't make it any easier, right? So list price is greater than, this is where our subquery is going to go. But I already know that we're going to display it in descending order. So I'm just going to put in my order by right away before it slips out of my head. By the list price, but descending order. So we're going to do DESC. So now all we need is that condition correctly expressed. Now, in the previous example, I kind of split the subquery like this. You kind of see how I did that. And people will use different styles for this, by the way. This is kind of my preferred way to do it. I'll see others that kind of put it all in one line. And so that's what I'm going to kind of do here is I'm going to put this all in one line in this situation. So I'm going to do another select. What are we selecting? Where the list price is greater than the average product list price. So, well, average sounds like a function. So another set of parentheses there. And how do we get the average of the list price? Well, we just throw the list price in there, just like that. And then where are we grabbing that from? That's also from the products table. It's not coming from a separate table. So we're averaging all the list prices. And if our list price is greater than the average, we're going to take that and show it. And the most expensive thing is going to come up to the top. let's see what we have here. Running it, get my cursor in there, running the query, and there we have only two things listed. You got a Gibson SG at $2,500 and a Gibson Les Paul at about $1,200. Notice it doesn't tell us what the average is, right? And this goes back to the larger point I was making before. Like I could go in there and run a query that would give me the average, right? Okay, just as an example, by the way, what if I just took this statement here and ran it like this? Okay, and let's execute it. All right, now this is not part of the homework, but I'm just showing you that the subqueries can operate on their own. And if you're curious what that average is, well, here's the average. We're looking for all the prices that are higher than $841.90, right? And if I do look at the products table, which I happen to have open, right? I see that's above, and there's a couple that get close, but those are the only two above that average amount. Taking it on faith that that's the actual average for this. But we trust the functions that are built in. So my point on this one is if you want to test the average. So I'm going to put in a little comment. If you want to check the average, you know, just so you know, not to make a fun of, but that's how it goes, right? This is the way that you can do it. And if you're not sure your subquery is going to operate correctly, think about, I mean, it's just perfectly logical. Run it on its own, see what it comes up with. Is it giving you what you want? Will it work inside this other query? Right. So I wouldn't say that that's absolutely necessary, but sometimes it sure makes it easier because how would I know what the average is otherwise? Okay. I think that answers that one. You guys all good? Fantastic. All right, let's move on to the third one. And I'm trying to find the description here. Here's number 3. And it says, write a query that displays only those category names that are not in the products table. Okay. Does this sound like the converse of what we did before? Yeah, totally. Right. All right. So, okay, what we did before, though, this is how we accomplished it. And we use the keyword in. Is that going to be the same kind of approach we use here? I'm just going to tell you right now, no, it's not. We're going to use the exists, and actually we're going to use the negation, the not exists, to run this one. All right, so let's start building the first part of the query, which is let's do a select. And what are we selecting? Category names, right? Category name. Where are we selecting it from? From the categories table. And I am going to give it an alias of C just to make my subsequent listing a little more efficient. Oops. C. All right, there we go. Here's my where. And I already gave you a heads up. I'm going to use not exists. So in other words, and here, I'll do it in this style this time. Okay. So how am I to determine if it doesn't exist? All right. Well, how about I run a query where I grab all the stuff from the products table and all of the where the category ID in the products table is matching the category IDs. And then by virtue of finding all of those, we already know what the answers are, right? Because we already know there's no keyboard, so it should come back with keyboards, right? But how do we say this in code? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select everything. Okay. And we're going to do it from the products table this time. So separate table. And where the category, the category ID in the products table, that's the one we're looking at right here because it doesn't have a name, right, is equal to the one from the categories table. So category ID from the other table. And we're just looking for the category name, right? Right. Is there any ordering that we're asked to do here? No, there's no sorting or ordering. So let's run this and see if it actually works. Running it. And guess what? We got the correct answer. So we did get keyboards. We already knew from the first one that keyboards was the odd man out, right? So this is giving us just the category that's not in the products table. That has no products in the products table. Better way to say it. All right. Did this one work for you guys? All right, not too bad, right? All right, let's move on. Now, don't forget when you guys are doing your submissions for these, I am looking for both the query, ideally, and output of your query. So I screenshot both basically. You can also submit your SQL file if you save it, right? And you should. But I still want to see the screenshot that the query worked. I want to see the output. All right, we're going to move on to number 4, you guys. I'm grabbing the instructions here. So here are the instructions for number 4. And boy, these are a little bit longer. So you know what? I don't want to zoom out basically. I like the font really big when I'm screen recording. I hope you guys appreciate it. All right, write a query that displays the product name and discount percentage from the products table. Make sure to only select those products where the discount percentage is not in the products table with a count of greater than 1. Okay, this is a little more complicated. So this is the first one that it's getting a little hairier, so to speak. So let's do the first part because that part seems pretty easy, right? So let's just start with the select. Select product name. And we're going to select also the discount percent from products. Not doing any aliasing here because I don't think I need it. I think everything's coming from the products table. When I look at my solution, yep, it sure is. All right, so now they want us to only select those products where the discount percentage is not in the products table with a count of greater than 1. Okay, let's take this one little piece at a time. So I'm hoping you're seeing the clues. Select products, right, where the discount percent. All right, so this is a little bit more to interpret. So let's start with where the discount underscore percent. And we were given a clue here. Notice that the clue is not in, right? So we're going to include that verbiage here. We're going to say not in. And here comes subquery. This is going to be a few lines. That's why I'm splitting it, by the way. Indent. All right. So now, once again, we're going to select, and we're looking at the discount percent. It's coming from the products table. That's the easy part. Now, the part that will kind of determine everything, and we're going to use a having clause here for it. We're going to start by looking at a count of all of those that have a discount percentage. All right, so okay, why do I do that? Well, if I look here, do all of them have a discount percentage? Not actually, right? We have one that doesn't. Now, I'm not sure what this means relative to what their pricing is, but what it's telling me, I think, is that we can't give you a discount on this because we're not really making a lot of money on it. That's how I read it, right? Meanwhile, this Gibson SG, that one we can discount a lot and still make money on it. That's how I'm reading it, right? So just take it. I mean, I don't really know what they're intending here, but that's kind of my thinking. And we're looking for a discount percent that's greater than 1, because if it's 0, we want to kind of forget about it, basically. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm also going to group them by the discount percent. And therefore, the anomalous one will be kind of isolated. We already looked at the data, so we know what it is. But just keep in mind, what if this was a list of 100,000 products? You don't want to go looking. You want to use code to do the looking. All right. The other piece I'm also going to throw in here at the end is I noticed that in my solution here, I did an order by at the end by product name. So then it'll be alphabetical by product name after all of this is done. So we're going to show the product name and the discount percent of those that have a discount of greater than 1, basically. Right. So here comes the output. Right. So I got my little cursor in there somewhere. And let's kind of scroll here and see if this is the right output. Do we think this is the right output? Does anybody think this is incorrect?
Seems right.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm looking at the, if you, okay, so the people that are watching this video online, of course, are like, what the hell are they talking about? But if you look at like the assignment, right, document, it shows you what the output should be. So we are shooting for this output, right? And if I know that's really small, but if you compare, it is basically the same, right? All right, so we are okay. I'll get this out of the way. We got, I think, one more left to do, which isn't too bad, you guys. Doing great on time for the first time. And I'm just looking at like the terminology here. All right, let me grab the last one here and then we'll get this finished off for the night. And we'll split that across lines. All right, write a query that displays the customer's first name, last name, and email address, and the order's order ID and date. All right, that I think that's pretty clear, right? Let's go with the outer query first. And I'm just making sure that my instructions are correct here because it seems like it's a little. Oh, there's a piece that I'm not including here. Okay, so I'm gonna paste this over. I forgot to copy this part over. All right, so here's a little caveat that goes with it. I'm like, that's way too simple. There's the caveat, right? You'll need to use a subquery for the order date where you select the minimum order date. Okay, so that's our trick. Okay, now let's build it. And I think what'll be fun here is to start with the outer query, if that's your definition of fun, at least. Some pretty geeky stuff, right? It definitely is. All right, so we are already told to select first name, last name, what else? Email address. And the order ID. And the order date, all that stuff. So I have all the columns that I need listed there. That's the select statement. We are pulling it from the customers table. I will alias that as the letter C. And okay, I love how it does that. All right. And in this one, what I'm going to do is I am going to use a join statement. So I'm just kind of giving you the heads up on this, where I'm going to join the customer ID from the customers table to the customer ID on the orders table. So here's the join statement. I'm going to say join, and we'll call in the orders table first. I'm going to say orders O, so we have an alias. What are we joining on? We're joining on the customers table, customer ID being equal to the orders table customer ID. And hopefully there's some correlation there, right? Conditionally, right? And we'll need a subquery for the order date where you select the minimum order date. Okay, so we're concerned with the order date. So we're going to say where the order date is equal to, and we want to find the minimum, right? So here comes the subquery, and I'm going to come down a line and do this. So here's my parens, and you know, I get weird about this stuff sometimes, and I like to get both of the parens in there right away because what happens to me is I sometimes forget, you know, and the semicolon, and so I just, you know, put it in there right away. We are going to do another select statement, and we're looking for the minimum. Why? Because it told us basically order date. And now that's kind of weird too. And let me just make a really brief comment on that, because dates in the system are also numbers, right? So however a date displays, the computer looks at it as a hard-coded value, right? Like just another number is really how the computer looks at it, regardless of how we need to see it formatted, the computer sees it as a number. So that's why we can do that function on top of it. That comes from the orders table. And then in this case, we're looking for the condition where the customer ID, notice I'm not using the prefix on this because we're in the orders table, right, as we're doing this, but I do want it to connect to the other table, right, which is and I'm questioning if this is correct because my solution here, by the way, this is what my solution says. It says customer ID. Okay. Is that even right? Well, I can tell you what. Here's how I can enforce it. I can enforce it like this, right? Because what my brain is telling me is that should be a C because we're already pulling it from the customers table, right? In fact, let's run it with the C there and see if I'm correct in my assumption here. And I just want to show you, this is my solution file, by the way, that I'm looking at as I do this. And I'll zoom in on that so you can see it a little bit better. This is the output we're looking for. So let's see if this indeed works. So running it, and let's pull the results up a little bit so we can see it, and I'll get that Word document back in here. Does this output look the same? It sure does. Right. So that is a typo that I have in my solution file, which I need to fix. All right. Question though. Is this the only way to do it? I'm going to have you ponder that for a second. Okay. And I'm going to say, there's probably another way to do this. All right. And okay, so we didn't actually run this extra little tidbit. So the other thing that I might add, and I'm just kind of throwing it out there, is I might go as far as grouping the data. Now we have very, very simple data sets here that we're working with. We're not working with really large stuff because it really doesn't matter at this level. But if I was working with large amounts of data, I would probably throw these in. And the reason as to why is just simply to make it look as nice as possible. I don't think we're going to see a change in the output at all. Or was there? No, it's the same output. But the point being that when you have more complicated data that you're pulling back, doing a little grouping and a little ordering helps to clean it up. Not kind of necessary here, superfluous, because I'm getting the same result. But with a larger data set, it might be very, very pertinent. And so, once again, looking at the solutions here, we basically have everything in the same order, in the same spot, with the same information. So superfluous, but with a larger data set, maybe not so much. It would actually be helpful. Right. That completes basically all the exercises here for tonight, folks. And as much as I don't want to end class early, we're going to end class early. All right, so this video will end here. So this is the solution video for the chapter 7 or unit 6 work. So this video